is all around us. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
Yeah, folks, the old world was great. We had everything going for us in the old world. Why people would want to be living in this one is a good question. Well, I guess they don't really have much choice. This is simply the one we've got at the moment. But when you look at what we had, we really did have some fantastic stuff, folks. And when you look at what's been taken from us and where they're taking us now, it's outrageous. You know, we had free energy, we had beautiful buildings, we had a beautiful society, and all of that has been taken from us, and now we're being moved into something even worse with all this digital bullshit that they're doing, all this digital ID and this digital cash and all this crap they want to do. It's just outrageous, folks. It's like a parody of the real world that we're being led into. And people may complain. I mean, I'm always saying you're better off using cash. And I have people complain and say, no, the cash system is their system, the fiat currency system is their system. And yeah, it is. It would be better if we didn't have to pay to be alive at all. But unfortunately we do. And in a situation where we do, I mean, it's a process. Getting back to freedom is a process. And there's been an awful lot of steps that have been taken to bring us to this point. And it's a process to get us back to something that resembles freedom. But in the world that we've got at the moment, using cash is one of the best forms of freedom that we've got. I mean, because we do have to pay to be alive at the moment, unless we can do something about that. But again, that's going to be a process. But you're better off using fiat currency and buying things anonymously, because, you know, with fiat currency, you can go and buy whatever you want, whenever you want, wherever you want. With what they're bringing in, you're only going to be able to buy what they want you to buy, when they want you to buy it, and when they say you can buy whatever it is they want you to buy. I mean, it's outrageous what they're doing, folks. It really is. And if we allow ourselves to move into that digital world with digital ID, then we're going to be screwed. It's going to be a very difficult world to escape from if we allow this to happen. And they're really ramping it out, folks. They're really doing what they can to get this happening. There's digital ID coming in Australia, and they're really trying to push it. They're saying that we need it to protect us, which is completely ridiculous. You need it to identify who people are. Like, this is important. You've got to really know who you're dealing with. Why? Why do you need to know who you're dealing with? It's just a person, just a customer who wants to buy some stuff. What's the problem? I know, but they could be someone the government doesn't like. And the digital ID that they're bringing in, they say, oh, this is going to be non-invasive and they're not going to be collecting information on people and all this sorts of bullshit that they spread, which is all bullshit. But you go and look at the digital ID page in Australia that they're using to promote this, and you look at some of the stuff they've got on the page. It's really interesting when you get to the know your customer part. Like I said, you've got to know who your customers are, folks, know who you're dealing with. The know your customer part, and it says, helps you meet your anti-money laundering compliance obligations to help identify politically exposed and sanctioned and other high-risk individuals. So, in other words, it's going to give you background checks on everybody that you're dealing with the click of a button. Oh, this guy has some posts on Facebook that the government doesn't like, better if I don't sell him anything. This is the sort of stuff they're pushing, folks. Trying to get the kids into it as well. There's a new app you can get for your kid's cell phone, like your kid should actually have a cell phone. No, your child should not have a smartphone. You should have these things restricted to people like under 18 years old can't buy a smartphone. That would be good. That's one restriction I would approve of. Just give them a normal phone, give them a flip phone, give them whatever. don't give them a smartphone. But there's this new app called Squiggy, by which you can pay your kids in digital cash and they can shop using QR codes. So they're really sort of programming the kids into this, folks, really trying to get this system online using the children to do it. As is always the way, folks, they like to push these things on kids, try to get it into the minds of the upcoming generation so that they can just continue it from there. Now, there was an old saying, I think a Chinese saying, if you want to take over a country, educate their children. And that's true, folks. They educate their children with misinformation and disinformation, lead the children into the prison that you want to lead the society into. And that's where they have their greatest successes, folks, which is what they're doing. Back in the secret garden, as you can tell, where the conference was held. Little solar panel up there. It's such a nice place, folks. They've done so well with this place. I know I keep plugging it the way I do, but you know. Yeah. Crazy world, folks. Crazy world they're leading us into. You know, and how long are we going to keep talking about this? I mean, honestly, how long are we going to keep doing videos? How long are people just going to keep watching videos? I have so many people contacting me saying, wow, it's been 5 or 6 days since you put out another video. Your videos really helped me. When are you going to put out another one? And that's good, and I appreciate that, but when are people going to start acting on the information? When are people going to start applying it to their lives rather than just watching videos on BitChute? There's stuff that needs to be done, folks. These parasites need to be removed from power as quickly as possible. I've often said, you know, go to Parliament House, surround Parliament House and demand that they leave the building. If you can't do that and they won't do that, well, go and surround the Governor General's house and get them to write a writ to call for a new election. Like, that's actually going to matter, or actually going to work. I mean, it may work if we could get hold of the electoral industry and get some sort of control over it. I mean, there's another election going on in Australia at the moment, like that's going to make a difference. You know, the last election that they had there, I said to people, you know, this was the last attempt, the last chance we had at actually either making the election mean something, or at least showing people how controlled and how manufactured the whole thing is. And the last election was a complete sham in Australia. I mean, they removed people's name from the ballots and did all sorts of crap to make sure you couldn't vote for who you wanted to vote for. And now they're doing it again in Australia, holding another election. I mean, what's this going to be all about, folks? Do you actually think you're going to get any joy from this election? Oop, there's a leaf blower. I really don't like leaf blowers, folks. Got to stay away from the leaf blowers. That's the only thing wrong with coming here in the morning. Sometimes you get these leaf blowers because they're kind of cleaning up the yard, which I guess is, you know, a good thing for them to do. I just wish there was another way to do it without using leaf blowers. But yeah, we showed you how controlled it was with the last election in Australia, and now they're doing it again. Now they're holding another election. Like, it's actually going to mean something, folks. All you're doing is voting for a CEO of the company. You're voting for a new CEO, a new slavery master, and it's always going to follow the same agenda while you are voting for any of the two major parties. And how do you not vote for the two major parties? Well, with the preferential system they've got in Australia, it's kind of unavoidable that whoever you vote for, ultimately your vote is going to go to one of the two major parties through the preferential system. That's what they've got it in place for. And it's a joke. The best thing you could do in the Australian election from this point forward is to boycott it completely. I mean, they showed you with the last election just how corrupt it was. And I was even trying to support that, saying this is our last attempt. This is the last chance Australia has to make something of the electoral system. It didn't happen, which showed you just how corrupt it is. And it's just going to get worse and worse from this point forward. So there's no point in voting. You've got to boycott the election, say you don't have any confidence in any of the candidates, you have no confidence in this government's ability to govern, and you wish to have them dismissed. That's what needs to happen, folks. There might be something on this lens here, or is that just a reflection? Let me just check the lens, folks. Okay, I think we're good now. It might have just been a reflection, but it's good to clean the lens anyway. But there are people pushing back around the world. There are people in certain places that are doing it. Huge protests in France at the moment, like they have literally surrounded the Bastille in France, which is a good thing. And the police in France are just being incredibly brutal the way they are everywhere else. See, this is happening right around the world. And something I said back in 2014 when I was in the UK, because I went there in 2012 and there were the bobbies on bicycles and with their little pointy hats and their batons and stuff standing outside Richmond Park. And then I went back there in 2014 and they were in black Kevlar with machine guns. And I went, oh, well, this is the world police force. The New World Order is already here. It's just got to consolidate its power from this point forward. But what we've seen is the world police force, because the police in the UK are dressing the same as the police in Europe, same as the police in France, you know, in Holland, in Australia, in the United States. They've all got these black Kevlar uniforms, body armour, the same weaponry. This is the world police force. And that's the biggest problem we face, folks, is these brain-dead cops. I mean, and the shit they do and the crimes they commit and get away with. You saw on the last report what they did to that guy in Warwick, Stephen Harrison. They virtually drove him to his death, or they probably went in and killed him themselves, just to get this guy out of the picture, because he was intelligent. He was a guy who knew the law, knew constitutional law, and was advising political parties, and also to send a message to these political parties not to mess with the current system. And people say, well, what's the answer? How do we do this? Well, the answer is non-compliance, folks. I've been saying for years, the answer is to stop complying with your own slavery. It's really the only way out. If you try to get violent, well, they're just going to want to get violent back at you. The only way you can actually do it through the strength of numbers is, like I said, to go and surround the political houses, go and surround Parliament, surround the Governor-General's house, and demand that these people exit the building. Call them out as being sacked. Say you've lost all confidence in this government's ability to govern and you wish to have them replaced. We've got to get our people in there, or we've got to dissolve government altogether and get back to some form of real world, because we don't have that situation at the moment, folks. The world is being overrun. And non-compliance is really the way to do it. Non-compliance would fix everything. Imagine thousands of people, millions of people, surrounding Parliament houses and simply refusing to comply with their own slavery and simply demanding that these leaders exit the building. It would really make a difference, folks. This girl in Serbia seems to have the picture sorted out, or girl from Serbia. Anyway, she's not in Serbia now, she's Canadian. Well, she's living in Canada, but have a listen to what this girl says, and she's completely correct.
Everyone keeps asking me, how do we win? How do we win against these governments and these elite parasites that keep bringing in these laws? Well, the law is just a word on a piece of paper. Why are you following it? It's called mass non-compliance. Don't comply. Oh, but I'm going to get in trouble. So what? Don't be afraid. You want to know what Bosnia did? And I'm from Bosnia. So I was born in former Yugoslavia. I'm half Serbian and went through a war, lived in a refugee camp. And now I come here and you're going to tell me that Sock Boy is going to tell me what to do? I'm going to show you a picture of who Sock Boy looks up to. Klaus Schwab. Here's a picture of that, darling. Yeah. That's Klaus. Yeah. That's who Justin Trudeau looks up to. And you guys literally listen to what he says. Oh, well, the health services, screw the health services. Oh, but it's an emergency. So what? It's just a word. Stop complying. The reason why they are going so power hungry now is because so many people complied. The government literally told you to jump off of a bridge and you did it. And then you followed your friends because your friends and neighbors did it. So what? Screw them. If people don't like you, that is not your problem. That is their problem. You have your own life. You need to find that God-given right. You are a sovereign human being. You can do what you please. If you don't want to put something in your body, don't put it in there. There's more of us. There's always someone who thinks exactly like you. So start being an independent human being. Why are you listening to the government and what they tell you? And I'm going to say this as well. If they bring in environmental officers and they come onto my property, I'm going to take your tires. I'm going to sell them on Facebook Marketplace for $2. Why? Just cause. Next time you come on, I'll take your tires and your doors and your alternator. Call the cops. See if I care. What are you going to do? Send me back to Serbia? Cool. Like, I'm down. So stop being afraid. And you want to know what they did in Bosnia during 2020? The government's like, yeah, we need to shut down. And Bosnians were like, no. And then government couldn't do anything. And then when they tried bringing in like the passports, guess what like Serbia did? They're like, yeah, we'll just make fake ones. What could they do? And then when the cops started to actually enforce the night curfews, yeah, a bunch of people went and jumped them. What are you going to do? There's more of us than there are them. And only your compliance gives them power. So stop complying. There's no need for wars. There's no need for protests. There's no need for anything. But if you come on my property and you take my chickens, I'm going to go to my mayor's house. I'm going to take his couch. That's how we play this. So stop complying. Due to everyone's mass compliance in 2020 and 2021, these lot lizard elite loser parasites have now gone power hungry. And this is exactly what we told you would happen. So I want everybody to find that fire in them, that sovereign human being, and stop complying. That's it.
Yeah, folks, that's the completely right attitude to have. Stop complying with your own slavery. Why do you think that all this bullshit these people write down on paper means something? The governments have invalidated themselves over what they've done over the last 3 years, and you should never forget what these people have done, folks. With all of the distractions they're giving you, you know, like what happened with Stephen Harrison, as painful as it is, it's still a major distraction. What's happening in Ukraine, this is all distractions. What's happening with the banking system, these are all distractions, folks, and it's all being done by design. The weather wars they're carrying out everywhere, huge floods in California at the moment. Huge floods. They've actually lost a hell of a lot of farmland. A lot of crops are going to be failing. A lot of crops were washed away. See in Australia what they've done, killing all the fish around Broken Hill. It's disgraceful, folks, and they're doing this right around the world, destroying farmland, destroying any chance we have of surviving without the system. They really want us to be dependent upon the system, folks, and they're working very hard to maintain that because it's the only thing they have. I said years ago that people being corralled into cities, I mean, cities are not something we would have come up with on our own. Cities are basically kill boxes. Cities are places they can get massive amounts of people to go there and get them all completely dependent upon the system, completely dependent upon shopping at supermarkets and, you know, turning everybody into truckatarians. So then all they've got to do is cut off the food supply and get people completely dependent. Get people to a point where they're asking government to come and help them when it's really the government who has created all these problems. But the most dangerous thing we're facing at the moment, folks, is the smart grid. The 15-minute cities, the digital currency, the digital ID. This is absolute slavery. This is worse than anything that we've seen in history that they're trying to put in place. And if people allow it to happen, then they are fools and we are lost. So how do you stop it? Well, you stop it through non-compliance. You stop it by refusing to participate and by calling these criminals out for what they are, because they're all criminals, folks. All of them are criminals. We saw a bit of social engineering in Melbourne over the last weekend as well. There was a protest. There was a protest people staged in Melbourne against the rampant rollout of LGBTQ rights, and it was billed as an anti-trans rights rally. It wasn't really an anti-trans rights rally, it was more of a request for all people to have the same rights. Because what we're finding is that people are having their own rights removed in order to support the LGBTQ community. And what this is doing, folks, I mean, people have been complaining about patriarchy for so long, and they're saying we need more women's rights, we need more women in the system. Well, now men can be women. Now that you can't define what a woman is, of course, men can be women, and so you've got a new form of patriarchy, which is even worse than what we had, because these people are leftist, liberal, new pronoun, whatever. These are just the weirdest people ever and the most fucked up people ever, with the most ridiculous concepts of what freedom is. You know, freedom for them and no freedom for everybody else is what they call freedom. And so we've got the patriarchal system being replaced by pseudo women who are going to get in there. I mean, and you've seen what some of these people have done. I mean, look what they did with Biden's cabinet. Who's that guy, the serial luggage thief? I mean, you know, crazy stuff, folks. So This is a war against women as well. I mean, it's a war against humanity, but especially a war against women. Women are very powerful, folks. I mean, you start messing with women's children and stuff like this, it's like the lioness comes out and wants to rip your head off. There was actually a lady in Colorado who was facing a severe attack from one of these trans people. Well, not a trans person, but a lesbian woman. There was a woman by the name of Danielle Jurinsky, and she was very outspoken about the mayor of the town that she was in. I can't remember the name of the town. It's an Indian name, the name of a tribe. I can't think of it at the moment, but the police commissioner of the town was this incredibly dykish woman with a severe case of penis envy, you know, spiky hair, the whole thing. And she had a partner, a dyke partner, who was a social worker. Apparently this woman, whose name is Robin Nasita, was going around and finding mothers and basically putting it on them, you know, sexual advances towards certain women in the community. And if the woman didn't respond to this Robin Nasita's sexual advances, they would end up losing their children. She'd file a complaint against them, say they were molesting their child, and end up taking their child from them. She tried this with a woman called Danielle Jurinsky, and Danielle Jurinsky fought back and actually got this woman charged with attempted kidnapping. And you know, very, very sordid story, folks. I'll leave the link to the video below. You can go and check it out yourself. But this is the sort of stuff that's going on within the system, and this is not an isolated case, folks. This is what they do. This is why you should never let any of these spiky-haired type people in there and have them in control of other people's lives, folks, because it's pretty disgraceful what they do and what they get up to. This is how families are being undermined. This is how the system is being undermined. They really want to get hold of your children. And I mean, imagine if she'd got hold of this woman's children. She probably would have put them on transgender treatment and puberty blockers and whatever they would have done to these kids. It's disgraceful, folks. Hola. Hola. It's disgraceful what they do to these people, to these children anyway, and disgraceful what they do to families, folks, doing what they can to break up families. And it's not just happening in the United States, it's not just happening in Canada, it's happening all over the world. They're also going to be having a security emergency alert in the UK next month, folks. 23rd of April, they're going to be sending out emergency messages on people's phones. Their new emergency system, they're saying, they want to test it. And they're saying initially it will be for weather things and rah-rah-rah, initially. What else is it going to be for? When they have their new pandemic or when they have their new whatever, when they want to lock people down, they're going to be sending out alerts on this emergency frequency. And apparently when you get this emergency alert on your phone, you're not going to be able to use your phone until you respond to the alert. You've got to acknowledge that you received it before your phone's going to be operating again. What you can do, folks, is go into your settings on your phone and you can turn off emergency alerts. On most phones you can do this. If you go into your settings and check it out, you'll find that you can turn off the emergency alerts so you won't get this. I mean, there's really only one emergency alert that should be going out to people, but I don't know how many governments are going to be sending out this message to people. But like I was saying before, I think I got a little bit sidetracked. There was a anti-LGBTQ rally, well that's what they called it in Melbourne, and it was infiltrated. what happened during the rally was a bunch of people in black walked out there doing the Nazi salute, of course, as you would, and calling for the arrest of pedophiles. I mean, you know, the arrest of the pedophiles, the suppressed names in Australia, this is something that needs to happen. But they're using this, of course, to go out there and promote an agenda. So they walked out there in black outfits, black masks, doing the Nazi salute. And so this LGBTQ rally, or anti-LGBTQ rally, was overrun by these neo-Nazi types. And when you look at who was in the crowd, folks, I mean, this is completely staged. One of the guys was actually identified as a cop's son, was one part of the crowd there. And now there was a woman speaking, a politician speaking, a lady called Moira Deeming. And because she was speaking at the rally, she's now been accused of supporting neo-Nazis. And they've tried to turn the whole protest against the removal of people's rights into a neo-Nazi rally and say this woman needs to be removed from politics and held accountable. And the Victorian government even wants to ban the Nazi salute. Think about that one, folks. Ban lifting your arm into the air. What about when you're hailing a bus or something, hailing a cab? No, you can't do that. You could be arrested for doing the Nazi salute, you know. It's a joke, folks. It's a complete joke.
This is a disgusting ideology responsible for the deaths of millions of people.
Condemnation came thick and fast.
We're a bunch of cowards acting in a cowardly and disgraceful way with the sole purpose to try and intimidate.
This is a real insidious, hateful ideology, and we need to deal with the root causes of it and rip it out by the roots.
Neo-Nazis storm an already tense clash on Saturday between what some have dubbed anti-trans demonstrators and counter-protesters.
Look at the Nazis! Look at the Nazis!
30 mostly masked men clad in black in an odious display performed the Nazi salute on Parliament steps.
We are revolutionaries!
And right there is Victorian Liberal MP Moira Deeming, one of the speakers at the event.
The LGBTQI can have their rights, that's fine, but why does it involve taking away everybody else's rights?
Today, her own party is calling for her scalp. Leader John Pesutto says he'll move a motion to boot her from the party.
Moira Deeming has had an association with people who organised the rally, who have shared platforms with and viewpoints with people who promote Nazi views.
The Andrews government also moving swiftly. Victoria was the first state to outlaw the Nazi swastika. Now it's considering banning the salute too.
And they're trying to identify everything with Nazism when you look at what Nazism was supposed to be, which isn't anything like what we were told. I mean, World War II, a lot of it is just bullshit, folks, what they told you. But when you look at it and look at the official narrative of what Nazism is supposed to be, you know, the whole totalitarian system that we're told was rolled out across Germany, this is exactly what they're rolling out around the whole world now.
I created this personalized air filter for people that really care about the air that they breathe. At the top here are two plugs that go into your nose that filter the air coming in. There's holes in the bottom of it, and when you open it, there's a little filter on the inside that can be exchanged out. Breaths of fresh air. In the future, with one purchase of one of these air filters, comes a free armband that says, "I'm the solution," as in I'm the solution to pollution. Is there a problem right now? According to the EPA, roughly 82% of greenhouse gases is contributed by carbon dioxide. We, as humans, exhale carbon dioxide. So I think to help the planet a little bit better is getting rid of about 5-6 million people. And the people that still don't believe that air pollution is a problem, what we can do is gather those people up, put them inside of little rooms, and fill it with the toxic greenhouse gases to give them kind of a feel of, you know, what it's like to breathe in that gas. And then they'll want to join us for sure. And if they don't want to do it, we'll do it by force if necessary. We start with Poland, and then we get up to...
And anybody who's protesting it, they're calling a Nazi. It's incredible, folks. Just backwards. Everything they do is backwards, and everything they say is backwards. So now they're trying to get this politician removed, and they're trying to associate everything with this Nazi fascist sort of movement. I mean, any push for freedom, anything that pushes against what the government is doing is now being called Nazi, when what the government is doing is the classic Nazism that we were told happened in World War II, which again didn't. I mean, it's a complicated story, folks. Even by saying that, you get trolled by people. Trolls have been next level on my channel lately, folks. There's been one guy who's a apparent researcher, an Australian guy, who has been posting comments on my video by the name of Ricky Gomez, he's going by now, which of course is, it's not Ricky Gomez, it's this Australian guy. And he's saying that he posted 486 replies, comment replies on my video that night. This guy's supposed to be a researcher and an activist, and he's up at 2 o'clock in the morning spending 3 hours posting 486 replies to comments, telling people I've retired and that they need to go and support this other incredibly good-looking and talented man, and go to his channel, and any donations that they're going to give me, they should give to this guy, which of course is, you know, who the guy is who's doing the posting. But yeah, this is what researchers do, folks. They spend 3 hours posting 480 comments on other people's videos, trying to steal their audience and steal their donations, and just, yeah, unbelievable, folks. So, I mean, you know you're making a difference when you get this level of trolling. It's quite remarkable. But you see the pinned comment on my videos, folks. If I'm ever going to retire, if I'm ever going to suggest that you go and donate to other people or whatever, I'm going to come onto a video and tell you, don't believe anything that you see written down. You know, like, use discernment, folks. When people contact you or post these things and claim to be speaking for me or claim to be me or anything like that, use discernment, folks, because if I've ever got anything important to say, I will come and do a video. If I'm ever going to retire, I'll come and do a video and tell you that I'm retiring. Don't believe the stuff that people post, and, you know, just watch out for all this stuff, folks. And there's a lot of it that's going on, which does confirm for me that I'm making a difference, so it is good. But again, even with that, folks, I mean, how long are people going to continue to just watch videos and make videos? And I even wonder, you know, am I doing the right thing making these videos? Because I think very often people are just waiting for the next installment, and they're waiting for, you know, something to come along and make them feel better for the day, and whether it's actually preventing people from stepping into action. And stepping into action is what we need people to do, folks. Like I said, rally your community, go see your local council, demand that they leave the building, sack these people, because they're all criminals, they're all carrying out genocide, and it is the worst form of genocide that we're seeing, folks. And you should never forget, like I said, never forget what these people have done over the last 3 years. The amount of people they've killed with this injection, the amount of damage they've done to society, to businesses, to everything, to our lifestyle. I mean, they're restructuring the world, folks, to make it into the perfect slavery system that they've always wanted. And it's being achieved through people's compliance. That's why non-compliance is so important. And they are restructuring the world, folks. We should never ever forget what these people have done.
Vaccine. A CDC safety group says the heart condition in adolescent and young adults is linked to the shot.
CDC now looking into reports of heart problems in young vaccinated teenagers.
Now chest pain, fluttering and heart inflammation are among some of the new side effects announced by the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, observed in some people who have received the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine.
Ending up with inflammation around the heart, causing chest pain and shortness of breath. Myocarditis is noted by the Canadian Pediatric Society as a possible side effect of mRNA vaccines.
Who
is ready for some sunshine. I know I am. Let's start off with a check of your next weather with meteorologist Alyssa Carlson. She joins us live in the studio. Alyssa, this really is the calm before the storm.
Not again. No. Oh.
You know, we're going to go ahead and go to break right now.
Yeah.
There's some terrible stuff going on in various countries around the world, folks. I mean, there's some really bad stuff going on in Ireland at the moment. The people of Ireland are being replaced. There's massive immigration happening in Ireland. People don't feel safe walking outside. A lot of girls being raped, a lot of problems happening in Ireland, folks. There's actually a channel called Urban Scoop is the name of the channel. And I'll put a link below. You can go and check it out. This guy's got a lot of videos about what's going on in Ireland. There's a video that he put out there called Plantation, Rise of the Celts, which is a very good video. I recommend you go and check this out, regardless of what his political affiliations are, or, you know, I mean, not everybody's going to think 100% like you do, folks, but this guy's actually trying to make a difference for his country, and I think you should go and check him out and support his channel. Also, if you want to know what's really going on with the jab and what they're really doing with these injections, folks, there's a great video that was released a little while ago, a few days ago I think, called Payload 2. There was one that was released a little while ago just called Payload, but the second version of it, Payload 2, is very, very good. It contains some very, very poignant and interesting and valuable information about what's going on with the jab. And it's got AI voice doing the narration, but it's actually a very good quality AI voice. And after you've been listening to it for maybe 2 minutes, you kind of forget that it's an AI voice. It's that good. So, and it's got great information, folks, and I highly recommend you go and check it out. Payload 2, I'll put a link below. I'm not sure what the name of the channel is, but it's a very good video, folks. And like I said, it gives you a lot of information on what's going on with the jab. A lot of stuff people have been up in arms about as well. There's I mean, Israel is really exposing itself through all this, folks. I mean, the whole Jewish question. You know, and the plan is to rule the world. That's the plan. That's the Jewish plan. It always has been the Jewish plan, folks, to infiltrate all governments and to deprive everybody of ownership and to basically rule the world, control all the leaders, and that way it will just be the world for them. When you look at the Talmudic system and you look at the Kabbalah and all of this sort of stuff, I mean, it's all about building Jacob's ladder, exterminating the Goyim, what they call Amalek. All of this stuff, they want it gone. They want basically all white people gone, and they want to create their master race so they can ascend Jacob's ladder. They want to, you know, return to source, and they believe that source is androgynous and blah blah blah. So it's all pretty sick shit. That's what they're doing. But they just brought in a law in Israel a few days ago or a week ago, where they're talking about banning all talk of Jesus. You can't mention Jesus in schools. You can't mention anything to do with Christianity. You can't promote Christianity. It's punishable by jail time if you promote Christianity or talk about Jesus. And all these Christians are up in arms about it, saying, well, why are you doing this? I mean, what do you think they're doing it for, folks? I mean, the Jews hate Jesus. If you're a Christian, go and look at what they say about Jesus. This is why the whole term Judeo-Christian is a nonsensical term, folks. If you really want to look at the difference between the religions, I mean, Judaism and Christianity are diametrically opposite to each other. They are literally polar opposites. The Christians believe Jesus to be the saviour of mankind and the Son of God. The Jews believe him to be a traitor who betrayed their system, and they say he is spending eternity boiling in a vat of hot excrement in hell. That's what they say about Jesus. That's what they think about Jesus. It should be no surprise the Jews would ban talk about Jesus in Israel. I mean, just 2 or 3 years ago, there was the church in Bethlehem, one of the oldest churches in Bethlehem, that was just obliterated and destroyed by Jews. It wasn't destroyed by Arabs, folks. It was destroyed by Jews. They've been doing this for years. If you look at Islam and Christianity, there's virtually no difference between the two religions, except that Christianity believes Jesus to be the Son of God and the Messiah, and the Muslims believe him to be a prophet, simply the same as Muhammad, just someone who came with the right message. And they're actually waiting for his second coming as well, the same as the Christians are. They just call him Isa, they don't call him Jesus. So, and even the name Jesus, why would this Nazarene have a Spanish name? And it isn't even pronounced Jesus here. I mean, I've met people here called Jesus, and their name is actually Jesus, because the J is pronounced as an H. So it's Jesus, is Jesus in Mexico, in Spanish. But why would this guy have a Spanish name? You know, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Even the Bible refers to him as Yeshua. Islam refers to him as Isa. And if you really want to get into the religions and look at them, there's very little difference between Islam and Christianity. Of course, the media won't tell you that, and you'll have all these Christian zealots out there who won't tell you that either, because they've never gone and read the Quran. You know, they believe that anything outside their King James Bible is evil, so they're just going to take the religion offered to them by the British King and think that they've really got the world worked out. No, folks, there's a lot more to it than that. But it should be no surprise that they have banned talk of Jesus in Israel, and it should show you what's really going on here and who's in control of destroying the minds of humanity.
The Jewish people as a whole will be its own Messiah. It will attain world dominion by the dissolution of other races, by the abolition of frontiers, the annihilation of monarchy, and by the establishment of a world republic in which the Jews will everywhere exercise the privilege of citizenship. In this new world order, the children of Israel will furnish all the leaders without encountering opposition. The governments of the different peoples forming the world republic will fall without difficulty into the hands of the Jews. It will then be possible for the Jewish rulers to abolish private property and everywhere to make use of the resources of the state. Thus will the promise of the Talmud be fulfilled, in which is said that when the Messianic time has come, the Jews will have all the property of the whole world in their hands.
I mean, you know, you can't blame all the Jews, of course, but there is certainly a Jewish mafia that has infiltrated all of our governments, folks, and infiltrated the world media, the banking system, all of it. And that's who is running things and always has been. I mean, you can go beyond that as well. Go and have a look at what's going on in Switzerland, what's going on in all across Europe. I mean, look at the royal families across Europe, folks. I spoke about this in one of my first films, I think. Might have been my third film, where I was talking about the line of William of Orange and the fact that all the royalty across Europe has actually descended from the tribes of Dan, the Canaanite tribes, which were all traced back to the Exodus and all this sort of stuff. It's the same Jewish Hebrew people who are actually these royal families across Europe, and it's all part and parcel to the same thing, folks. They've been ruling the world way back since Egyptian times, and they haven't stopped. It's just been an ongoing thing. And now they're trying to bring us into this whole digital slavery system, which is just going to be next level. Like I said, something else that people are talking about now with the whole crash of the monetary system that's happening, like on the back of, was it SVB, the Silicon Valley Bank? They're now saying that 180 or 190 US banks are in trouble, folks, that they may go down. Of course, they're all going to be sucked up by the too big to fail banks, and they're going to be used to move you into this digital system. But with all this happening, there's activists out there, so-called activists, gatekeepers out there saying that this is all a good thing. You should have nothing to fear about the crash of the money system, because we're all going to be moved into the quantum financial system, and how great this is going to be. Folks, the quantum financial system is total digital slavery. Any type of digital currency is total slavery. Unless it's untraceable, untrackable, unless it's completely independent, like some cryptocurrencies like Monero or whatever. But even with those things, I mean, I can understand why a lot of people are supporting cryptocurrencies and why a lot of people support Monero and Bitcoin and all this sort of stuff. The problem I see with it is that it requires the internet. It requires a digital connection in order for you to use these things. If we have a free internet, free and open society, then cryptocurrency would work fine. But if it gets to the point where you need a digital ID in order to log online, and you've got to be someone that is accepted by government as being, a desirable person, because in the new world there's only going to be two types of people, folks. I've said this before. There's only going to be desirables and undesirables, and you've got to figure out which one you are, and they will soon figure out which one you are by your social profile, by everything they want to do, the social credit score, by tracking and tracing your movements, tracking and tracing what you post, and it's all going to go back. I mean, they've been keeping tabs on everybody way back since the beginning of the internet, folks. When they said all this stuff was anonymous, it wasn't. I mean, they made you anonymous, but now they've still got tabs on everything that you did, because it was anonymous to start with, kind of. You could go and do whatever you wanted. It was a free-for-all, and they wanted it to be like that because they wanted people to expose what their true intentions were and expose what sort of people they really were. So they made it a complete free-for-all where people thought they were doing things with anonymity. But now it's all still there. I guarantee you can still go and find your old MySpace pages and all that sort of stuff. I mean, who uses MySpace anymore? Nobody. So why is it still there? It's still there because they want to be able to track everything that you've done. They can come back and they can use it against you. Oh, look what you posted back in 1995 or 1996, This shows what sort of a person you are. And they just go through and they profile you. When you've got a world like that, the digital currency falls down, cryptocurrency falls down, because when you've got a world like that, they're tracking and tracing everything you do. And if you need some form of government ID in order to actually even log online to begin with, then what's it going to be like? I mean, how valuable is your cryptocurrency going to be if you've actually got to be digitally tracked in order to use it? And if you've been posting stuff they don't like and having thoughts they don't like, then they're not going to give you access to the internet, folks. That's the plan. That's what all this digital ID and all this identification and cashless stuff is all about, folks. So they can deny your access to the internet because they want the internet to be in control of everything. In control of your finances, in control of everything, like paying your rent, everything. Shopping, everything, folks. They want it all to be done online. Scanning QR codes, all this sort of crap. So it doesn't matter. You could have $1 billion in crypto, but if you cannot log online because you are biometrically tagged, then how good is your cryptocurrency going to be? That's the problem, folks. Like I said, in a real world where we have control of things and we have control of the internet, and it's a free and open society with a free and open internet, then cryptocurrency would definitely be a way to free yourself from the fiat system. But when digital ID comes into play, well, like I said, how are you going to be able to log online to get to your cryptocurrency? How are you going to be able to log online to be able to do anything? You're already banning people from public transport and banning people from all sorts of stuff in China. China's just next level. And we've all heard how Trudeau and all these people love China so much and where they want to take things. We know where it's going, folks. And we know what it's all been about. I mean, this has been a methodical genocide that has been carried out against the world. And there's a great clip actually by a lady whose name escapes me at the moment, who I will put on the end of this video report. She nails it in about 2 minutes, tells you exactly what's going on, what they've done with the jab, what it was all about, what the government departments are doing, how the whole thing was contrived and conceived, and what it really means.
Mistakes Were Not Made, An Anthem for Justice by Margaret Anna Alice. The Armenian genocide was not a mistake. Holodomor was not a mistake. The final solution was not a mistake. The Great Leap Forward was not a mistake. The killing fields were not a mistake. Name your genocide. It was not a mistake. That includes the great democide of the 2020s. To imply otherwise is to give them the out they are seeking. It was not botched. It was not bungled. It was not a blunder. It was not incompetence. It was not lack of knowledge. It was not spontaneous mass hysteria. The planning occurred in plain sight. The planning is still occurring in plain sight. The philanthropaths bought the science. The modelers projected the lies. The testers concocted the crisis. The NGOs leased the academics. The scientists fabricated the findings. The mouthpieces spewed the talking points. The organizations declared the emergency. The governments erected the walls. The departments rewrote the rules. The governors quashed the rights. The politicians passed the laws. The bankers installed the control grid. The stooges laundered the money. The DoD placed the orders. The corporations fulfilled the contracts. The regulators approved the solution. The laws shielded the contractors. The agencies ignored the signals. The behemoths consolidated the media. The psychologists crafted the messaging. The propagandists chanted the slogans. The fact chokers smeared the dissidents. The censors silenced the questioners. The jackboots stomped the dissenters. The tyrants summoned, the puppeteers jerked, the puppets danced, the colluders implemented, the doctors ordered, the hospitals administered. The menteciders scripted, the bamboozles bleated, the totalitarianized bullied, the covidians tattled, the parents surrendered, the good citizens believed and forgot. This was calculated, this was formulated, this was focus grouped, this was articulated, this was manufactured, this was falsified, this was coerced, this was inflicted, this was denied. We were terrorized, we were isolated, we were gaslit, we were dehumanized, we were wounded, we were killed. Don't let them get away with it. Don't let them get away with it. Don't let them get away with it.
And again, I really urge you to go and have a look at that short documentary. It's about 45 minutes, I think, maybe 55 minutes. It's less than an hour. And called Payload 2, which tells you exactly what they're doing with this jab, folks, and exactly what the plan is. And I highly recommend people go and look at it, because it kind of helps with the story. It helps you see what the plan is. It helps to explain also why everybody isn't simply dying from the jab. I mean, everybody who's had this is definitely being tracked and traced now. Everybody who's had it's got an IP address. This whole concept of people giving off Bluetooth signals and stuff, there's not a fantasy, folks. This is what they're doing, and this is what they've done with this jab. They put nanotech into everybody. There's now apparently medical buses and trucks being parked, trailers being parked around, not only in America but also in Canada. And they're asking people to come in and get tested. And they're offering like substantial amounts of money, like $175 if you'll come and do a survey.
Alright, so I've had a lot of people tell me that they don't believe me, that these CDC trailers are here. I'm here, I drove here, look at what I found. There's one trailer. Two trailers connected right there. 3 trailers connected. 4 trailers connected. This is at our fairgrounds. This is not in Canada. This is in the United States of America. This is in Illinois. This is in Illinois. Alright, look it, they got a big old trash can. They're fixing to stay here for a little while.
So a week or two ago, I posted a video with this picture. These trailers just showed up in our town. Three of them showed up in our town at our fairgrounds. They're just sitting there. I made a post on Facebook. I did not say the three-letter agency's name, but I just said, these trailers showed up in town. If I were you, I would not trust them. And within 30 minutes, they had already been taken down. Like, oh my gosh. So we live out in the middle of nowhere. Like, it's a 15-minute drive into town. We have maybe one neighbor, but they're like 5 minutes away. Our driveway is a mile long. We literally live in the middle of nowhere. And just yesterday, someone came to our house and was talking to my boyfriend and said that they would offer us $150 per adult and $60 per child to go to these trailers and let them run tests on us for a few hours because they knew that we were not vaccinated and they asked what our stance on guns were. Like, they knew that we lived out in the middle of nowhere and that we were not vaccinated. Scary. That's scary. Like, people get lost trying to find my house. They have their GPS up and they still get lost finding my house, so.
Of course they want blood tests and all sorts of stuff, but they want people who are unvaccinated. They want to come in and they want to have them tested, find out who they are, get tabs on everybody. Because, I mean, they're still saying that at least a third of the world is unvaccinated. It's probably more than that, folks. I don't think that as many people as they say were stupid enough to have this thing. I mean, a lot of people were, but I don't think everybody was. And I don't believe any of the numbers they give us. But they're saying at least a third of the people in the world are still unjabbed. So they want tabs on these people. They want to know who they are. And you've got to really start getting ready for what's coming, folks, if you're not already. Like I've said before, the best thing you can do is get in touch with your life skills, because you're going to need them. With the system that's coming, I mean, if it gets to the point that you can't log online because you're biometrically tagged, and so you can't buy anything because it's all going to be online, you can't use currency because it's all going to be digital, so you're just going to get squeezed out of everything, squeezed out of life. When it gets to that point, you're going to need your life skills. You're going to need to be able to go and just, like I've said, walk into the bush with a knife and a piece of rope and know how to survive. And we used to be able to do this. And there's ways of I mean, even maintaining your lifestyle if you do that, folks. I mean, there's free energy devices. There's a lot of free energy stuff coming out at the moment. I mean, we're surrounded by energy. The energy is in the ether itself. And there's ways of tapping into this. A lot of people are finding ways of tapping into it. You can create free energy devices just with magnets and a fan, folks. So, you know, there's ways to get around all this stuff that they're doing, but you've got to have the nous and the skill to be able to do it. So, and it's one thing to be creating these alternate societies, sure. We want to be able to do that. I mean, people are saying find your tribe and go and rah, rah, rah. That's all very well to do that. A lot of people are having trouble with that because, you know, they're finding that there's nobody in the area that's awake, no one they can talk to. So how do they find their tribe? And even creating little alternate societies like this, it's all very well, but look what they did to Waco and places like that. I mean, people have tried this before, folks, having alternate societies, and you just become a target for the system. So you're better off changing the system that we live in from within it by simply applying all these values to your own community. Something I've said for years, folks, put common unity back into the community. Get to know the people around you and have everybody there ready to rally when this happens. I mean, this is stuff I was saying 14, 15 years ago, folks, preparing for this, telling people that this is where we were going, that they were moving us into this whole digital slavery system. And when they come for you, you want to have the support of your neighbours around you. The best thing you can do is to become friends with your neighbours and to put common unity back into the community. Might be a little late for that now, but 16 years ago when I was saying that that's what we should be doing, if we had done that, it would have really been a huge boon. I mean, it would have really helped us through what's happened over the last 3 years. It's been incredible to see how easily people fell for it all and just how much they complied with all this rubbish, folks. It really has been. And now we're kind of past the point of no return. The system has to implode really before we're going to see anything good come of this. But what's that implosion going to look like, and what sort of phoenix is going to rise from the ashes? That's the question. But yeah, the new patriarchy, folks, that's what they're creating. This ongoing genocide. But look, I think that's about all I've got on my list, folks. There's so much going on. There's so much I could talk about, but a lot of it is just distraction. There's so much bad stuff going on. This whole attack against white people that's happening everywhere. There was a terrible attack in Australia. There was a 15-year-old girl called Kira who was invited over to a sleepover by 3 of her mates, a couple of Aboriginal girls and I think another white girl or part Aboriginal girl in there, and they spent 4 hours beating her up. They took her over to this place. They beat the shit out of her for 4 hours, tortured her for 4 hours, punched her, stabbed her.
No. Go, just go.
Well, just get it over and done with, bro. I'm trying. You don't punch my eye. She can punch me over the fuck. She wants to punch a dumb dog.
Hurry up, just punch her 2 more times. Look at her face.
I've never seen something so fucking ugly in my life.
Go. Oi.
I won't. Turn this way. Turn that way. That way, cunt. You're so dead. You just said turn that way. I'm fucking turning. Do you ever shove your armpits, you sticky bitch? Lift up your arms. This way. Lift up your fucking arms. Wait, turn that way. Turn that way right there.
What, like that?
Yeah, turn around. Stop. Don't, please don't. Turn that way, cuz. I can actually hit you. 5 hits. 5 hits, huh? Don't even, cunt. Put your fucking elbow down. Keep your fucking hands down. Oh, I got it that good. Bro.
Hurry up, the video's still going, cunt.
Oh, fuck. Let me have a break. Fuck, get the fuck.
Really brutalised this young girl. I mean, if you find out who these are, these Aboriginal kids who do this, and you see them in the street, do me a favour and just go and smack them in the mouth or something. They really deserve it. Doesn't matter if they're young girls, folks. Anybody who does this to another person definitely deserves to have their jaw broken. So it would be good if you see these girls, you just go and punch them in the face on the street. I mean, that's what I would do, simply because it's the right thing to do. Not that I'm into punching girls, but these young psychopaths kind of forfeited their right to be called girls or treated like women or treated with any respect at all. And they were laughing and joking and saying what fun it was to beat the shit out of this other poor kid who was in fear for her life, and she was told that she couldn't scream or do anything. If she did, they would go and kill her parents. I mean, it was pretty bad, folks. And this is the sort of hatred that's being promoted against white people and is being condoned. And all this is happening because of this level of propaganda. You know, even seeing girls doing stuff like this to another kid, it's because they've been taught to hate white people. Like I said, folks, white people built most of this society. White people built most of the world. So it's pretty disgraceful that this sort of thing is going on. But it's the result of programming, and it's easy to see that it's the result of programming. Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
So yeah, it's a product of society, folks. It's the sort of world we're allowing to be created, and the sort of world that these kids are getting sucked into, you know. Pretty disgraceful, folks. But yeah, I think that's about all I've got to say. Oh, look out, there's the leaf blower again. Seems to come around, folks. But got to get away from the leaf blower. But yeah, I think that's all I've got to say. Sorry it's been so long. It's been like 6 days since I brought you a video, 6 or 7 days. And I've been moving and pulling the bar down and all sorts of stuff. There is a couple of prospects of a new Casa de los Cuervos that may be opening sometime in the near future. I'd say it would be at least a month away, or at least a couple of months away before it happens, because I'm just busy doing other things. I still want to go and have a break. I haven't done that yet. It's been pretty hectic the last couple of weeks. So that's why you haven't seen any videos from me, but there is a possibility of a new venue opening somewhere in Bonfil soon, which would be good. But again, I want to go and have a break. I want to go to the United States while I still can. I want to try to go and catch up with a couple of people while I still can. There's a lot of stuff I want to do there. A lot of people I'd like to see. A lot of things I'd like to get out of the way, stuff I've wanted to do for a long time. So I want to try to do that. I just need some time out from all this, folks. I really do. And again, I mean, how many videos do you need to make before people realise what's going on? You know, I wonder, am I just perpetuating the nightmare by continuing to make these videos? Because too many people just hang out for the next instalment and they're not putting the words into action. I mean, a lot of people are, but a lot of people aren't. And we've got to really see what's coming, folks, and see what the solution is. And again, the solution is non-compliance. The solution to all of this is non-compliance, and it always has been. You know, imagine if you had 1 million people surrounding Parliament House just saying, no, we're not leaving, we're not going. And if the police come at you with their LRAD weapons, go and pull them down. I mean, there's millions of you, there's a few dozen of them. Just go and destroy these frickin' things, you know? Pull the masks off these cops and expose who they are. Because they're brutal. They're just brutal. They've forfeited any claim they ever had to authority, any claim they ever had to be doing the right thing or upholding the law. They're not. They're just obliterating people, abusing people, torturing people, beating people. These New World Order thugs, folks. I mean, what they just did to Stephen Harrison should show you what their plans are. Yeah, and what their plans are for conspiracy theorists, which is, of course, anybody who's speaking out against government. There were people in Parliament House in Australia the other day talking about jabs and talking about vaccines and talking about the amount of damage that's been done to people, how many people are dying from these jabs. And the only response of the MP was to say that she hopes people in the Parliament put down their conspiracy theories. See, everything's a conspiracy theory now, folks. Any question the government is doing the wrong thing, any question that people are dying from the jab, any claim of truth is seen as a conspiracy theory by these psychopaths. So it's time to have them removed. When someone even says that to you, I mean, you should just stand up again and say, well, you need to change your complete lack of intelligence and your complete denial of reality and stop calling truth conspiracy theories, because your government is carrying out an act of genocide against the entire world. This is literally the worst genocide in history, which is unfolding right now before our eyes. And so few people are calling it out for what it is. So few people are even able to see it, that it's freaky. It's absolutely freaky. A lizard running across the path, folks. Too quick for me to get on camera for you. But it is, it's freaky. This is the worst genocide in history that we're seeing. This is worldwide. I mean, we've seen genocides that have happened before. Bolshevik revolution, the genocide in Rwanda, the genocide in Uganda, genocides across many countries, the genocide of the Australian Aboriginal people, genocide of the Tasmanian Aboriginal people, which I think was the only case of complete genocide in the history of the world that we know of anyway. The genocide of the society that we had before, the Free Energy Society, the Tartarian Society, whatever you want to call it. And it was beautiful, folks. We had a beautiful world, and we're being moved into this sterile, ugly, controlled, digitally controlled nightmare that they're calling freedom. Everyone has the right to a digital ID because it gives you freedom. It gives you the freedom to be able to identify yourself everywhere, like you actually need to be identified everywhere. Who gives a fuck who you are? Why do you need to have this digital ID and have everybody tagged and identified everywhere you go. What? Because the world's so dangerous, because of terrorists and stuff. No, it's all contrived by the media. It's all contrived by the government. You know, switch off your TV, switch off your politicians, folks. Don't do a thing these people say.
The battery and CPU are located approximately right here. The limb articulators are located at the top of the 4 limbs. I would recommend 62 grain green tip penetrators because they will be armor plated. If you don't have access to that, paintball will be effective in disabling the cameras, however it's easily reversible. Another option will be to do a mix, 50-50 mix of old engine oil, oil-based paint black, and a good dose of sand into a balloon. The sand will scratch up and gum up the works, and the paint will be very difficult to remove.
And turn off your television. If you see the media out there reporting a news story, folks, drop into the feed and just stand behind them and hold up signs of the truth. Call them out as liars and criminals while they're trying to record. Do everything you can to disrupt these people, diffuse and disrupt these people, folks. And if you live near a TV tower, do what you can to pull the TV tower down so they can stop broadcasting this signal. And that's what's really messing the world up, folks, is the lies and propaganda that is being promoted by the media. The media are the ones who've sold the lie. The media are as bad, if not worse, than the politicians. These ego-driven little parasites and dweebs on TV who just get out there and lie through their teeth and are promoting genocide, promoting the destruction of society, promoting destruction of their own race half the time. That's how programmed these people are. And the media and the politicians, folks, like I said on a report recently, the thumbnail of a report I put out recently, not until or only when the last politician is strangled by the entrails of the last mainstream reporter will the world know freedom. People thought, oh, you'll get us in trouble by saying that sort of stuff. Aren't you promoting violence? No, what I'm promoting is a response to violence, because everything the government has done in the last 3 years is violence against the people. And it's ongoing, it's continuing, it's not stopping, folks. I mean, just look at the world. You can't deny it. You can't deny the state that we're in. You can't deny what they're doing. And so many people are falling by the wayside. So many businesses are falling by the wayside. Our societies are just imploding, folks. Look at Philadelphia. Look what's happening on the streets of Philadelphia with all the fentanyl and all the drugs and all the crap that they're pumping into the US society. The United States is being destroyed from within, and all these people sitting at home saying, I got my guns when they come for me. Look, your country's been overrun, your country's been taken over by whoever this is in the Biden mask. And people say, oh, you sound like a conspiracy theorist saying that. Well, I don't know, folks, this guy doesn't appear to be Biden. He looks different all the time. He's got different earlobes, he's just different. He's not the same guy. This is not Joe Biden, whoever it is. This fuddy-duddy wandering around pretending he's the president. It's a joke, folks. The whole thing is a joke. We have to take the world back. We have to take the world back, folks. But how do we do it? We do it through mass non-compliance. We do it by supporting each other, realizing that there is a war being fought here, folks. The world is actually at war and nobody knows it. I had a video a year ago saying, what if World War III had already started and nobody knew it? And that's the situation that we're in, folks. World War III has been waging for years, like a couple of decades now. And people don't know it's happening because they're expecting World War III to look like a whole bunch of planes flying overhead with bombs and all this sort of stuff, dropping bombs on their cities. They're dropping vaccine bombs on our cities, folks. They're dropping disinformation bombs on our cities. They're destroying us from within in every way that they can. It's not conventional warfare that we're facing here, folks. It's a new type of warfare. And that's happening all around the world, folks. It's been ongoing for at least 10 years. More. I mean, it's been ongoing since 9/11. That was the beginning of it. That was the beginning of their big end game, folks, when they bombed the World Trade Center in 2001. Now, 22 years later, and yeah, look what they're doing now. Now they're consolidating their power. People like Klaus Schwab and all of these fools who are worthy of no respect, worthy of no obedience. No government on earth is worthy of any obedience anymore, folks. They have all abdicated any privilege they had to govern by the lies they've told over the last 3 years and the bullshit they're promoting. With what's going on in France, so many people surrounding the Bastille, I really hope they storm the Bastille, go and tear those politicians out of power and hang them. That's what I hope they do, folks. Macron deserves to be hung from the nearest lamppost. He honestly does. As do all of our leaders, as does Daniel Andrews, as does Albanese, as does Jacinda Ardern, as does the new guy, whatever he is, the little pastry puff they've got there now. I can't even remember his name. Hipkins or something in New Zealand, whatever his name is. He's a punsy little dude. But all these people should be pulled out of power and strung up from the nearest tree, folks. They really should. They're carrying out mass murder under the guise of helping people. And it's being promoted by the media. It's being supported by brain-dead thugs in black Kevlar who call themselves police, dare to call themselves police, when they're acting like anything but police. They're acting like hired thugs. Like I said, you know, everything we're told happened in World War II, which didn't, but the whole Nazi society that we were told was in control of Germany is what the entire world is becoming, folks. And it's one thing, it's one organism. And if you ever doubted the fact that it's all one system, now should show you that it is. Even with what Russia and Putin and all this stuff, I still don't think Putin's your friend, folks. I still don't think Trump is your friend. This whole thing about Trump being arrested last Tuesday, what a joke, folks. Trump's going to be arrested and urging people to go protest. Yeah, like you did on January 6th, which caused this huge insurrection bullshit, which was complete bullshit. People were being ushered in there and escorted around the government buildings. The guy in the face paint and the buffalo headdress was being escorted through there by cops. They're actually handing out weapons to people in the building. Yeah, the whole thing was completely contrived, folks. And this was something Trump called for as well. And now he's calling for new protests. Yeah, right. What, to stop him being arrested? He didn't get arrested, folks. He's not going to get arrested. Trump's part of the club. All the people that are still on the Trump train, waiting for the QFS and all this sort of crap. Like I said, folks, quantum financial system is digital slavery. Because, like I've said to the people, like even at the crypto conferences back in 2017, I was saying to them that it's a great idea what you guys are doing. The world needs to transition into a new world. But you've got to understand that the world is run by criminals. And if you haven't factored that in, and you allow these criminals to remain in power while we are going through this transitional period, then they are going to control the transition and they're going to lead it into what they want. And it's great what you're doing with this whole cryptocurrency thing, but don't think the government isn't going to build an umbrella over the top. They're going to let you build this whole system. They're going to build their control grid over the top because you haven't factored in that the world is run by criminals who need to be removed from power before any transition is going to be possible. People just don't seem to see the sense of this. And it's completely true, folks, and it's what they've done. They've literally co-opted the whole thing to move it into what they want. And this is through the whole digital system, the digital ID, the cashless grid, social crediting, carbon credits, all the crap that they're doing. Tying it all together, medical martial law, folks. They basically militarized the medical system and they're using military parameters to control the medical system. everybody's got to be injected, everybody's got to be this, everybody's got to be that. There's no proof that any of these diseases are even real. It's just media propaganda being spread to people, and people just buy into it. So it's next level what they're doing, folks. And the only hope we have of taking it back is through mass non-compliance. And if we don't do it, we are condemning our children and our grandchildren to a life of absolute slavery that they'll never find a way out of, because they won't have any reference point for what freedom looks like. That's the point. I mean, I've been saying this for years, folks. But we are the generation, those people who are awake, this current generation, not just my generation, but the younger generation as well, people who are awake and aware are the ones who need to change this, because if they don't do it, no one else is going to. There is no political remedy. Not unless we go in there and remove these people from power and put our own people in there and revert back to the basic constitution of all of our countries. This is what needs to be done. Who's prepared to do that? The people have been whimpified so much, folks, is the problem. You know, the men are being turned into women, what they think of women anyway. And like I said, it's a new form of patriarchy, even worse than what people call patriarchy, because you've got these LGBTQ fake women who are getting in there and claiming that they're women, who are the worst type of people in the world, absolutely the worst people you would ever want to have anywhere near anything to do with life or children or politics or anything. This is who's taking over, folks. And it's all being done by design. And like I said, it's a war on women. It's a war against everybody, but most especially a war on women, because they don't want strong women out there. They don't want people like Danielle Jawinski going out there and standing up for their children. You know, they want women to be these spiky-haired dykes who think they're men, or men who think they're women. But not any real women. No, you can't have any real women's rights. And, you know, and one of the things that they were protesting at that thing in Melbourne, you know, that Moira Redeeming was out there marching for and speaking about, was the fact that women need their own bathrooms. Women need their own change rooms. Sure, you can have an LGBTQ change room for trannies to go into if they want to, but you can't just put these people into women's bathrooms. They're saying, oh, you've got to be able to let them do it because they're women. No, they're not women. Doesn't matter how much they think they're women, they're not. They're idiots. They're idiots with dysphoria, and dysphoria is being promoted, which is a mental condition, is being promoted as something normal and something we should respect. Now we've got to respect severe mental illness in people, but if you speak out about it, well, you're racist and you're mentally ill. And I mean, it's backwards. Everything they're doing is backwards, folks. And all she was really doing was saying, we need our own bathrooms. Stop doing this to us, because you've got these perverts dressing up as women so they can come into our bathrooms and watch us getting changed and watch us going to the toilet. And you know, it's crazy, folks, what they're doing. And that's what she's speaking out against. And people should be speaking out against it, because it's ridiculous that they're even allowing this to happen. So yeah. But anyway, folks, I'll leave it there for now. I think I've gone on longer than I expected to. I'll try to bring you another video a lot sooner than this last one. There's a lot of information I've got to go through. Like I said, I've been really busy. I haven't had time to look at so much stuff. I'm still kind of in a transitional period. I mean, I'm staying with some really nice people at the moment. I've got a nice room in a nice place. I don't know whether I'm going to stay there. I just don't know what I'm doing at the moment. I really need time out. I really need time out to just think about everything, think about what direction I want to go in, where I want to be, whether I even want to open up a new Casa de los Cuervos here in Bonfil. I mean, the community needs something like this. It's going to leave a big hole in the community, the fact that the place is closed. And, you know, it would be good to have something like this, but do I really want to do that? Do I really want to be running a bar in Bonfil? Or maybe I just want to go somewhere else. I mean, I'd still like to go back to my home, but whether I'm going to be able to do that, I mean, things are really getting crazy in Australia with what we just saw with Stephen Harrison the other day. I mean, things are getting pretty out of control in that country, folks. If the Australian people don't stand up soon, then who knows where it's going to go. So yeah, but I'm going to leave it there for now, and I'll bring you another video as soon as I can. I mean, like I said, I've got a lot of stuff to deal with, but thank you to anybody who sent me kind emails. Again, interview requests, folks. I'm not doing any interviews until at least mid-April because I've just got too much on my plate. It's hard for me to concentrate on interviews and just, I've got so much on. But thank you to anybody who's ever sent me a kind email and sent me an interview request, and I will get onto these things. Thank you to anybody who's made a contribution to the website as well, folks. Very needed and very much appreciated, and thank you for that. Thank you to everybody. I mean, thank you to anybody out there speaking out and making a difference, folks. There's a lot of people doing it now. A lot of people are getting the picture of what's going on here, and it's good. So thank you to anybody doing that. Thank you to all those people who are still on the front line. And thank you to all the trolls as well for letting me know that I'm on the right track. It's quite comforting, actually. Get up and find 486 comments from someone claiming to be an activist. And this is literally how he spends his time. Spends 3 hours of time actually out there and doing these sort of comments on people's channels. It's remarkable. But thank you for the encouragement, because that's all it does is encourage me. Anyway, folks, I will leave it there for now. Thank you for joining me on this report. It's always a pleasure to have your company, and I'll look forward to speaking to you again soon. Please take very good care until then. In Lakesh.
And the basic idea is that public health has been militarized, and the military has been sort of turned into a public health front, or Potemkin village, such that they are using public health language and public health laws to actually carry out a military campaign. And I would not call them DoD vaccines, I would call them DoD weapons. So I call it the kill box because the first sort of lead that I had was Todd Callender's January 30th, 2022 interview on Elizabeth Leavleit's podcast called Truth for Health. And he described it as a kill box. And then I looked that up, and it turned out it's a military term for establishing a geographic space or three-dimensional area for a military attack by air and by surface to kill the people who are in it, and then dismantle the kind of framework and move on to the next campaign. And what the DoD and the World Health Organization intend to do, and have gotten quite far in doing, but not completely reach their goals, is to set up the entire world as their geographic terrain, their target population as all the people in the world, the duration of their campaign as permanent, and the weapons that they're using are, number one, informational, that's the propaganda piece and the censorship piece. Number two, psychological, that's the fear and terrorism piece of telling people they need to be afraid all the time and they need to listen to the government. And then the third piece is the chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear weapons, which are called in their campaign pharmaceuticals, vaccines, but are actually toxins and pathogens. So I started, after I heard that interview, I had already been wondering what was going on, but I started trying to track down some of the things Todd Callender talked about in his interview and figure out what the legal frameworks were and how they were set up and what the financial coercion mechanisms were. My finding, which many other people have found from various other angles, was that this project has been going on for centuries. It's basically globalist central bankers and lots of related organizations trying to get complete control of human beings through banking programs and through military programs. And they kicked it into higher gear in 1913 with the Federal Reserve Act. And then they kicked the public health aspect of it into higher gear starting in the 1930s and 40s. Before the 1960s, they mostly did it through orchestrated armed conflicts and financial depressions and wars, which are very loud and messy and destructive to infrastructure. And it makes it difficult for them to have plausible deniability and legal impunity for what they're doing. So in the mid-60s, they got much better at inducing suicide and homicide by fraudulently labeling poisons as medicines or as vaccines or as prophylactics, and telling people that submitting to that poisoning process was their civic duty. And we saw that in COVID with the shorthand for do this or you're gonna kill your grandma. And the way that the pharmaceutical method is primarily useful to them is that plausible deniability is much easier and legal impunity is a lot easier. They can achieve the same goal of killing lots of people without their fingerprints being all over it. I looked into the coercion cascades, mostly financial. Not going to go into a lot of detail with that, but it starts at the top with the Bank for International Settlements, and they can use their control of other federal central banks' access to financial systems, and then all the way down through state governments, national governments, local, municipal, school districts, hospitals, everything. If you comply with what they're telling you to do, as far as masking and testing, isolating yourself, taking injections, then you will get the financial access that you need to run your business or to have a job. And if you don't comply, they can cut you off from those services. And so that is one of the main mechanisms through which the whole thing was carried out. And then on the legal side, at my website, I do trace it back farther, but I'm going to start at 1969 just for the sake of starting somewhere. The U.S. Congress passed a law to set up the Chemical and Biological Warfare Program. And in that law, which is 50 U.S.C. Chapter 32, there are very important key terms, including protective, prophylactic, and defensive, which is how they justified doing it. They were using those words because the international community of ordinary, non-insane people were concerned about biological and chemical weapons, and they were working on international treaties to prohibit them. And so they needed to build in loopholes, and the loopholes they built in were, we're not going to do biological and chemical research and weapons development except for protective or prophylactic or defensive purposes. And that's a false characterization because all biologically active products are intrinsically aggressive and toxic and lethal. And that's where we get disciplines, or that's the thing that disciplines like toxicology, pharmacokinetics, genotoxicity, drug-drug interactions are all related to that fact that everything that goes into the human body or any living body has some effects which can be toxic. So that was the way they tried to get around that. And then the Foundational Public Health Emergencies platform came out in 1983 when Congress passed the Public Health Service Act amendment, and that set up the Public Health Emergencies program under the 1944 law that had originally set up the Public Health Service, which is a branch of the military. And it also, in 1983, Congress and Reagan set up a $30 million slush fund, and that has continued. It's got a different name now than it did then, but it's still being funded as recently as the NDAA and the Consolidated Appropriations Act in December 2022. The other thing they did in the 80s was set up the 1986 National Vaccine Program and National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. And that's the one that set up the liability exemption for manufacturers and funneled anyone who was injured by a vaccine into this different compensation program. And that's been used as a model since the COVID started for the countermeasures injury compensation program. So the international piece, the cornerstone, is the World Health Organization, which is not a health organization. It's a military organization because of this merger that I'm talking about. It's sort of the military arm of the one world government that they're trying to set up. And they did a set of amendments to the international health regulations in 2005 that entered into force in June 2007. But basically, the IHR, which are currently going through another round of amendments to make them worse, called on national governments to strengthen their own domestic laws and fund more programs for surveillance, testing, detention and quarantine, physical control, and forced treatment during international outbreaks of communicable diseases. And the pretext that they used, because it was bankers who were doing this, was that they needed to protect international trade from disruptions caused by disease outbreaks. But the real intent was to set up these legal systems that transfer sovereign government from the nation state to the World Health Organization and the BIS automatically when a public health emergency of international concern has been declared, and Congress and U.S. presidents and the cabinet complied with that demand from the World Health Organization. So, two of the key years were 1997 and 98. That was when the beginnings of the Emergency Use Authorization Program was set up, and when they transferred the CBRN weapons stockpile from DoD classification, I guess, to HHS or CDC classification and control. It was the same products, as far as I can tell. It was just a relabeling and a rehoming of them. And the EUA, that was kind of a two-step thing. At the time, the public was really upset about the use of unapproved vaccines for anthrax on military troops and the horrible adverse effects they were having. So Congress passed a law in November to kind of revoke authorization for testing or using unapproved products on military troops. But 3 days later, in a different law, made it so that the same programs could be done, but the target population would be expanded from just military troops to the entire American population. Then, around 2000 to 2002, using the momentum from 9/11 and the anthrax attacks on Congress, they set up, through the statutes, again, program management sort of structures. They did that through the 2000 Public Health Threats and Emergencies Act, through the 2001 Authorization for Use of Military Force. And people talked about this at the time. It was construed as putting the country into a permanent state of war, the global war on terror, with every other country in the world. So there was no geographic limitation, there was no time limitation, there was no identified enemy other than terror. And through that, I think other people figured this out at the time, and then it sort of got suppressed. But it made everyone in the world into a presumptive combatant or enemy target. So it was essentially a de facto covert global martial law act by the U.S. government. And then in those early 2000s, we also got the Patriot Act, the Public Health Security and Bioterrorism Preparedness and Response Act, and the Homeland Security Act. And those were just more of the merging of the DHS, the DOJ, the HHS, the Department of Defense, all of the cabinet agencies. So since then, 2003 to 2009, there have been lots and lots of executive orders on these things, lots more statutes and appropriations, lots of agency regulations, guidance reports that were circulated to state, local, and tribal authorities and law enforcement so that they would know that under a public health emergency, they are subordinated to the federal military. FDA issued a lot of guidance for industry documents and sent those out to the pharmaceuticals and to the academic organizations and NGOs to let them know about how FDA was going to handle experimental products like vaccines, gene therapies, biologics. And they did more test runs like 2003 SARS, 2006 MERS, and 2009 H1N1. That brings us up to the Other Transactions Authority, and this was revealed through Pfizer's April 2022 motion to dismiss whistleblower Brooke Jackson's False Claims Act case. They said this was not a vaccine, it was a DoD prototype, and we were never obligated to do valid clinical trials. We were never obligated to prove safety or efficacy to anyone. We never had to get FDA authorization through any of the normal guidance for industry channels because it was a prototype. On October 4th, 2022, the U.S. government endorsed that view and filed a statement of interest and support for the motion to dismiss, basically saying that clinical trials were never material or necessary for DoD to pay the contractors for producing and distributing the bioweapons known as COVID-19 vaccines. And so all of this became visible from 2020 to the present when the World Health Organization Secretary General issued the Public Health Emergency of International Concern at the end of January 2020. And the HHS secretary immediately triggered the domestic frameworks through the determination that a public health emergency exists, followed by PrEP Act declarations for medical countermeasures, which are the weapons. And then Congress and the presidents, Trump and Biden, passed several additional congressional acts funding and reinforcing the structure of the kill box and issued more executive orders under the Defense Production Act, under the Stafford Act, under the National Emergencies Act to sort of build out the program. Basically, what it built is a huge public and private funding stream for military-led bioweapons research and use, eliminated informed consent by reclassifying people who could potentially be carrying a disease as presumptive national security threats, so that you can do anything you want to them because you're on a war footing, and to shield the products and weapons from product liability, to shield all the people involved from criminal liability and civil liability, and to shield the government funders, developers, and regulators from criminal prosecution under the other laws which are in place but are sort of superseded by this framework for use of bioweapons, use of chemical weapons, terrorism, things like that. I see it as a joint project between the U.S. Department of Defense, a coordinating committee of that, the Federal Reserve, and the World Health Organization and the Bank for International Settlements, and the United Nations. But the World Health Organization is like a subsidiary of the UN. And there are things that the globalists do not like. They don't like constitutions and charters. They don't like the conflicting statutory frameworks around bioterrorism, war crimes, genocide, torture. They don't like any of that stuff. They don't like when states and provinces and counties and like towns pass their own laws protecting informed consent, protecting people for consumer safety. They actually put out a report in October 2022, state laws limiting public health protections hazardous for our health. And there's a whole bunch of things in there that states have started doing that the globalists do not like. So doing more of those things, more bringing control back to the state, more using Article 10 of the Constitution to reclaim state authority. Those are all extremely useful. And I do think it's going to break. I think there's going to be a tipping point and the criminal prosecutions are going to start. And we have all the evidence. And every time they try to answer what we're talking about by saying national security, they reinforce that this is the right way to go. This is what they're doing. They're doing war crimes.
Very good.